Barbara Brown Johnson with the Child Advocacy Center. First of all, thank you guys for being here today, and we appreciate doing this and helping you guys out with this radio.
We appreciate your help.
For those who might not know, what is the Child Advocacy Center and what is kind of their purpose?
So our main mission is to put the needs of the child first in an investigation of abuse. And that sounds really simple, but it's actually really difficult to do. We are accustomed to having adult victims in the courtroom, but when you're talking about children, then all bets are off. They don't understand the court system, they don't understand the language, they don't understand the testimony, they don't understand any of those things that we as adults might inherently understand. So that means we have to respond to them differently than we would an adult who was an adult victim in the system.
Give us a bit of a history of the Child Advocacy Center. How did it come about? And I know it started in Springfield. Is that correct?
It did. So our center in Springfield began in 1995, and I've been the director there since 1997. And a funny thing kept happening over the years. Back in 2007, 2008, 2009, the counties in this region, particularly Howe County, kept bugging us and bugging us and bugging us to do a satellite in South Central. And at that time, Howe County was would you believe, our third highest county. So Greene County, then Christian County, and then Howe County always had more counties than like 13 or 14 of the counties that were much, much closest, and it was the furthest away at that time. So we knew that they were really serious, and when we really talked to them seriously, they started saying, "You guys aren't getting it. We bring only our worst cases to Springfield." So we knew that that was not acceptable. So I think it was along about 2010, we came down here, had a couple of community meetings, and said, you know, this is a region that really needs these services. We need to know how serious you all would be about helping us build this mission here and then sustaining it afterwards. And we got some really great feedback, so much so that we decided to rent or lease the old Howe County Health Department. And 2 days a week, we sent Springfield staff down here to work cases down here. And then after that, our numbers just kept growing, and as they say, the rest is history. We now have 3 staff members, full-time staff members, and since 2011, we have served 1,234 children in the South Central region. And the numbers will continue to grow. I have no doubt that they will. So I guess that's the good news, but that's also the bad news. There's such a need, but it's great that we're here to serve kids close to home.
Now, you don't only serve children in Howe County.
Absolutely.
What counties do you serve?
So Oregon, Texas, Shannon, Wright, Ozark. Did I leave something out? I may have left
Douglas?
Douglas County. And we're also really working to establish investigative teams in those areas, because that's really the heart of the CAC model, is that everybody works to their strengths. So law enforcement gets involved, children's division is involved, and those folks come to the Child Advocacy Center at the same time as the child does. So we don't have 5 big people, some of whom wear guns, talking to the child and asking the same questions over and over and over again. And that's really the way the nation did child abuse cases prior. This is just so much better than that, and we get information from the child that is then credible, can be used in court to hold offenders accountable, and not only keep that child victim safe, but other children safe as well. So it's a good model.
You were talking a little bit ago about the high numbers that are seen across the region. what is it that you guys have noticed as kind of is there a defining factor that leads to child abuse?
Yes, and these are not necessarily definitive, but there are some issues that the research tells us is usually important to look at. One is poverty. We know that where there is lots of poverty in a region, there are also concurrent high child abuse rates, and that is not to say that only poor people abuse their children. That is to say that being poor is very stressful and you have fewer resources. So where you might want to go to an accredited daycare and leave your child there, instead you leave them with the next door neighbor, and that might not be an appropriate choice. So your choices are limited. We also know that when we have areas that are more rural and fewer services in those areas, that also tends to drive up those child abuse rates. And then finally, we also know that in areas where there is lots of drug use, that also absolutely drives up those numbers.
Barbara Brown Johnson, thank you for joining us today. And again, if you want to donate to the Ozark Radio Network Radiothon to benefit the South Central Child Advocacy Center, you can do that by calling 256-3131.